Okay, so I'm here to explain what happens when Saturn goes into the seventh house. And let's all explain what the seventh house. The seventh house is a house that represents intimate, close, one-on-one relationships, like a close friendship or a romantic relationship, like boyfriend, girlfriend. It represents your spouse, the person that you'll end up with. The seventh house can represent like contracts and agreements, because all that is like sort of all tied up together in a close, serious relationship. Agreements and all that stuff, and being committed. That's all like looked at in the seventh house. The seventh house can represent like also how you might be able to deal with the public. The seventh house can represent like your public image, or just dealing like groups of people, like the public or whatever, the image that you put out maybe to the world. I don't know, maybe forget that, because it's a whole lot of houses that are similar to like dealing with large amounts of people. The 11th house, the 10th house, which is like the midheaven sort of sometimes, then the ascendant. But I'm getting off track here. The 7th house is originally ruled by Venus and ruled by Libra. The 7th house can represent death, because the 7th house is known as the descendant. The first house is the ascendant, where the sun rises, but the 7th house can represent where the sun dies. The 7th house is like 6 o'clock. It's like 6 p.m., 5:30, like a time of day when the sun is setting, is like the 7th house. And that is why the sun is like debilitated in Libra, and which is why it's debilitated and doesn't really do well in the 7th house, because the sun is ego. And what you learn from the 7th house is that you cannot bring this ego into a relationship. The ego dies in a relationship, needs to die in a relationship. The sun dies in the 7th house because it's setting, it's vanishing. And that vanishing, that darkness, this house that Venus is associated with is, all tied to death. In Vedic Hindu astrology, Venus is known as like the king of the demons and stuff. The Asuras, which are like demons and stuff, represents Maya. Maya means illusions. All that is connected with Venus, and therefore the 7th house can just represent is a huge indicator of death in general, more so than the 8th house. Now we're gonna go talk about Saturn. Saturn represents death, debts, karma, boundaries, restrictions. One of the two planets that can represent our father, which is like the sun and Saturn. You look at both of them to get a general idea of how maybe your father-like figure or whatever might have been in your life. And now it's time to talk about what happens when these both two come together, Saturn and the 7th house. And this is a great position for Saturn to be in. Saturn is like exalted in this house. Saturn gains what is called in Vedic sidereal astrology, Dig Bala, directional strength, which is just a fancy terminology that just represents and means that this is just an area where Saturn is very strong at. It feels very good at, and it's very strong in this house for a numerous amount of reasons. One of them being is that Saturn is exalted in the sign of Libra, and Libra, as I told you, rules this house. Saturn loves dealing with people. It loves being in relationships, which is why it rules the 10th house and the 11th house. The 11th house is ruled by Aquarius, but that rule represents large groups of people, large, crowds, and organizing them and stuff, and being a leader of them. The 10th house is like career, status, being a boss, being a CEO. A boss is in control of like its company, its employees, the people underneath it. But here in the 7th house, it's more intimate. It's more one-on-one. It's not dealing with groups of people. It's dealing with someone on a one-on-one basis, like communicating with someone and dealing with someone on a one-on-one basis, like I'm doing right now. So yeah, that's why Saturn is like exalted in Libra and is very strong and feels very good in the 7th house. It's like the strongest place for Saturn to be in. It loves dealing with people and making contracts and negotiations and working stuff out with people. Saturn here, it can make someone really dutiful, faithful, and committed in a relationship, because Saturn likes it likes routine. It likes routine, order, and structure. So these people, they can get into a relationship and, you know, they will want to stay in that relationship for a long time. Once they make an agreement, you can see them with agreements of all kind. They honor agreements for the most part. So if you say you're going to do something with these people and you're the one to back out and mess up or whatever, then they might feel some type of way. These people, you know, they just honor commitments and agreements, and they'll try to, the best of their ability, fulfill whatever agreements that they'll make with someone. And like I said, because it likes order, routine, and structure, they don't really want to bounce around once they get into a relationship. They want to stay in that relationship. They don't want to do something new. They've been with this person for a long time. They don't want to learn someone new, learn someone's new habits, and they don't want to have someone figure out their habits. They want to stay in a relationship. So someone with Saturn in the 7th house, they have the ability to be in a long, committed relationship and stuff. Saturn represents older, elderly people and things. So someone with Saturn in the 7th house, they can attract an older spouse, or it's like, for the most part, their partner, their spouse, will have to be older. Whoever they marry, whoever they settle down with, stay with for the long haul, will likely be older. It don't gotta be several years older. It can just be 1 year older. But very likely, they would desire and be with an older person. Because you see, Saturn brings reality into relationships. Saturn is older. It's just mature. And that can be good and bad. Because you start off early on with the Saturn in the 7th house, and, you know, your relationships, they're not really that successful, which is like most people. But here, Saturn, you know, they can be very orderly, as I keep repeating, but that orderliness can damage a relationship. It can manifest as being very controlling when someone has potentially with Saturn in the 7th house. You'll get into the relationship and you'll expect the same thing every day. You want order and structure, and, you know, you don't want no unpredictability, no unpredictabilities within the relationship, within the marriage or whatever. So if you are interested in someone, they're very spontaneous and eccentric, then Saturn, the native of the Saturn in the 7th house, they might not like this. They might be like, you're too, I don't want to say uncontrollable, but that's sort of what it is. You're too unstable, you know? You're doing something different all the time, and this is not really stable enough for me, and they might back out. So these people, they would desire some stability or consistency from their partner. But expecting this early on in your 20s and stuff can really be detrimental. To have such high expectations at early ages. So that is one of the reasons why, you know, some people with a Saturn in the 7th house, it might be a delay till they get into a relationship. You know, it's not that a person is denied being in a relationship. It's not that they'll have horrible relationships. This is a great placement for relationships. It's just that a person can go into a relationship with expectations and standards and very mature, and the people around their age, people that they date and are interested in, they're not at that level yet. They don't want to do that, or you just be too controlling, and it just falls apart. That's what you can see with the Saturn in the 7th house. But I'm trying to see what else do I have to say about it. But like, this is a good placement. Saturn, like I said, can bring reality into the relationships. So being very straightforward and upfront and blunt can sort of damage the relationship also, in a sense, you know? Like, for example, if you're a guy and you have this placement, you might be very, just like I said, down to earth and realistic when it comes to certain problems that, or red flags that you might see in this person that you're interested in, or the red flags and problems that you might see in a relationship with this person, or whatever. Or you just be in a relationship with someone and you think about, man, I really like this person, but these are the problems. She got this problem, she got that problem, we don't really mix here. And the women, if they really want you, they'll be like, they'll do whatever it takes to make it work. You know, they'll look past all these problems that you making good points on. They might forget those problems. Let's just deal with those problems as they come. And you're like, no, we can't deal with those problems as they come. We need to deal with those problems right now. And that practicalness, that practicality, that realisticness, that super rigid, mature mind can sort of damage the relationship. It's like you're so realistic that it's like, dang, take a chance. Take a chance sometimes, you know? Let's be a little bit spontaneous. You're sucking up all the fun and the romance out of the relationship by being super realistic all the time or super serious all the time. So that's something that you can watch out for. It's good to be real realistic in a relationship, but balance is always everything when it comes to every area of the life. And that is just one area that Saturn can sort of potentially damage a native in a relationship. You'll be too realistic, and your partners, they won't be ready or can't handle that. So that rigid, orderly, serious, mature mindset when entering relationships can potentially damage your relationships early on until you probably find a partner who is older and or more mature, which sort of happens later on in life, or unless you change your ways as the Saturn 7th house native. You change your way when going about getting into a relationship. Someone with Saturn in the 7th house, they'll be very great and proficient with dealing with the ups and downs and the conflicts in relationships, all the arguments and all that, because like I said, the sun, you know, the first house, that's yourself. And sun feels very good in the first house. But when it comes to the 7th house, the ego dies because the ego can't exist in a relationship. But Saturn isn't ego. Saturn likes working with people. It likes making negotiations with people. It loves dealing with people. So Saturn here, you know, a person, they'll be very good at working issues and conflicts out with their partner or just with people in general. As they get older, as they get better, Saturn return, 28 and older, they should be more proficient and confident and be able to deal with the trials and tribulations, the ups and downs, the conflicts and the arguments that is common in relationships or any type of relationship, you know, a friendship or dealing with someone. You'll be able to you'll be able to assess the situation, or you'll be able to deal with the burden and the conflict and the argument that whatever is involved in the relationship or whatever is involved for that person. You'll be able to deal with it. You'll be able to handle it, you know. Because like I said, Saturn's exalted here. Saturn's very strong here. Saturn loves being in relationships. It loves dealing with people. It's not egotistical like the first house, the ascendant. It's not like the sun. The 7th house is all about dealing with other people, but dealing with people on a one-on-one basis. And Saturn, it can do that. So, what else I gotta say about Saturn? Like I said, Saturn here, it can make a relationship feel like a burden and make a relationship feel like a great responsibility. So people with this placement early on, they might not be too keen and prone to get into a relationship right away because they feel as though they might not be ready, or they just don't want it. They don't want it right away. It's too much responsibility, too much to worry about. They're not going to find no partner right away at the age they are early on, and they might just be like, forget it. Forget jumping into a serious relationship. That's what you can see with Saturn in the 7th house. But as they get older, you know, they will be able to handle the relationships. They'll be like, okay, I'm mature. I know what I want. I'll be able to deal with the conflicts and the arguments. And because I'm so funny acting, or because I like my routine so much, I will do whatever it takes to make this relationship work. I'll deal with the conflicts. I'll deal with the arguments. I'll deal with all whatever little teeny tiny things that are involved in a relationship, because I don't want to start over again. You'll want to make it work, you know. Like I said, all I can keep repeating is that this is a great placement. You can get married, you can get into a relationship. It's just that for all those many reasons that I listed, you could just be too mature early on. You could just trap your partner within your world, within your rings. You know, you want them to be within your comfort zone. And if you date a spontaneous partner, you know, they'll be out your comfort zone. And you might not like that, and that'll end it. So it's a good placement if you want to for staying in a relationship for a long time. But, you know, it's not really good for frivolous, quick, short burst relationships. They'll want something stable, you know. Saturn isn't just automatically denying you of relationships or marriage. You can get into one with this placement. Definitely, by the time you experience your Saturn return, 28 and over, you should feel very confident and adept at dealing with people and being prepared to enter into a relationship. But that is all I have to say in regards to this position with Saturn in the 7th house. Hope that it helped clear any misconceptions or negative views that you had about this placement. If you had it, you're not doomed. And thanks for watching.